In 1966, two firefighters who were in recovery in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, petitioned the department to create this unit to help suffering brothers who were still struggling with alcohol. And they did that, and that was their primary focus. In the late 70s, a firefighter who was on the job was at Columbia working on his PhD as a psychologist. He joined them and expanded some services, but then he retired. And in '82, I was hired to expand the services to other drugs and to mental health issues and bereavement issues. At the time of 9/11, there were 11 professional counselors and 2 administrative staff in one location. And now there's 6 locations, including a substance abuse unit, with 28 professional counselors, which includes 5 uniformed professional counselors, 40 peer uniformed counselors, and 13 administrative staff at 6 locations. Our primary focus is on the members, active and retired, and what we do in terms of spouses, significant others, and families is those, particularly in the household, who interact with the member are included in treatment when it's going to help the member recover from their issue, whatever that issue, mental health, substance abuse happens to be. We have a very active peer counselor program. Peer counselors are uniformed members, fire and EMS, who are very experienced in the job, usually senior people, sometimes retired, and they go to the different work locations, both firehouses and EMS stations, to talk about the general issues of mental health, bereavement, anxiety, childhood issues, and substance abuse. We didn't keep numbers before about divorces, so I can't say that it was increased. I can say that workers come in with marital issues in large numbers, but I can't comment on an increase. You know, the big difference is there's a huge increase in the number of clients that we serve. So we can say for the people who come for service, numerically we're seeing more of everything. The number one issue in our department, the number one issue in mental health throughout the world is anxiety, and that is the primary disorder that we see. How that takes shape and what solutions people find to deal with their anxiety when they become unhealthy is usually when we get involved. Substance abuse is pretty consistent in any occupational workforce. The best count we have is someplace between 10 and 13% of employed Americans are going to experience a substance abuse problem that's going to interfere with their work during their work career. That number really doesn't change that much over the years I've been in this industry. And what has changed for us is because we see approximately 4 times the amount of clients we used to see 10 years ago, the number of everything has increased, including substance abuse issues. The children we deal with are primarily the children of deceased firefighters, not just from 9/11, but all the times that there's been tragedies in the service. For children of active members and retired members, we do assessments and then we refer them to mental health professionals in the community. So there's 2 main issues. One is confidentiality, which is the purview of the prospective client, and the other is privilege, which is the purview of the professional. There's federal law and state law on both issues, and what we have to comply with is to be sure that we don't disseminate information about diagnoses or even attendance in any of our programs unless several conditions or one of several conditions are met, being a written release from the individual client, a court order, a medical emergency in the moment, which would include, for example, suicide and homicidal thoughts and behaviors. So that's what we have to be very careful of from a professional point of view. And we can't report or reveal that information without one of those very serious circumstances being in place. But the bigger issue is normally the perception of the client, that the client perceives that you're going to keep their information confidential. So we do, but because we're a program that's part of the fire department, we are employees of the fire department. So there's always, the issue for the client, how confidential is this information? The other complication is when people miss work because of these illnesses, they're going to be on a medical leave duty status. So that is recordable information. That's how we get paid. So it's important for that to be covered also. So it's a balance of all of these things, and it's the primary balance is that members are assured of the confidentiality of their medical record. And in the FDNY, firefighters and fire officers have unlimited sick leave. So any mental illness or substance abuse illness that would interfere with their ability to perform their duties in the fire ground and in the firehouse would be a reason for them to be on medical leave. So that's part of, it's an extension of medical leave for other kinds of illnesses and injuries. So that's what they're entitled to, and the goal of our unit is to assist the members to get to their formal level of functioning so that they can return to the firehouse and or EMS station. But what happened, so many retired members were involved in the work of 9/11 and suffered all kinds of injuries and illnesses, physical, mental, substance abuse, so that part of our work has increased tremendously also, and we have a much bigger outreach to retired members and services for retired members. Most of our insurances cover a variety of hospitals in the New York City region. The first level of care is to make sure that people are medically stable, so that sometimes it's imperative that we provide either a detox for substance abuse issues or inpatient mental health services, especially if somebody is suicidal and or homicidal. So those are very important services that we provide. We have a network of hospitals that are throughout the whole metropolitan area that we utilize. And then another level of care for people with substance abuse issues is inpatient rehabilitation. And we're open to a large variety of programs there. The two that we've worked with for a long time and had very satisfactory results are Veritas Villa in Cohasset, New York, and Marworth in Pennsylvania. And one of the reasons we use both of them is because they're very strong family programs, so that when people are suffering from these illnesses, often their family members are very involved in the negative aspects of the illness, and then potentially, hopefully, in the care and the recovery of the members when they do decide to get treatment. So we want to include them in that. And we also run a day treatment program for substance abuse services within the Counseling Service Unit. And one of our components there is also family education for the members of the worker's family. Well, I guess the predictive factor is what's happened over the last several years, and what we've learned there is that there's actually not much increase in services on the run-up to an anniversary. The increase in services comes immediately after the official ceremonies for the anniversary have ended, within a week or so of the other side of 9/11. And we would anticipate increases for the next 6 to 8 weeks after the anniversary occurs. Because this is the 10th year, it's getting more publicity from the media and from citizens around the area. So we can only imagine that the pressure on the families of the deceased especially will be intensified. So, what they need in terms of our services, we're going to be able and happy to provide. So what we do is try to identify firefighters, including many retired firefighters, who have a lot of experience in the job, and we recruit them and we interview them, and if they are agreeable, they take a 2-day training program which is taught by our clinicians, the professionals on our staff, and more experienced peers. And we do that in a didactic manner, but also in an experimental manner, that they're actually in groups and doing the task with others that are more experienced, so that we can help them modify their own behaviors before they go into the workplace. And then we follow up with them once a month with group supervision, so what issues come up, we hopefully get them to speak about it before it becomes burdensome to them. What you don't want to do in any helping profession is encourage, you don't want to have people take on the trials, the internal hurts of the person they're trying to help, because that causes burnout quicker than anything. So we try to do that by meeting with peers every month, and the other thing we do about every 2 months, we do an in-service, and what that is trying to skill build so that they become more used to diagnoses and get more information to give out to the members in the field and become more comfortable with all the issues that are involved. So those are the ways we try to both promote the program and emotionally protect the people that are willing to work with us on those skills. There's about 40 of those people, so it's you know, an ongoing task. Many of the members have degrees in substance abuse, certified alcoholism services, or in even masters in different mental health professions. We have 3 gentlemen who are social workers, and a couple of them practice on the outside in that capacity, but they prefer to work for us as peers, which is fine by us. But that's a very high level of skill that they bring to the firehouse or the EMS station when they go out there to visit. And we want them to do a lot of education. That's their primary mission. The other piece of that is we're part of the monies from the Zagrota bill and WTC medical monitoring treatment program. And in that capacity, 4 of our sites provide that service, medical monitoring and treatment, and we use the peers there every meeting, every time that works, to speak with the members, educate them on a variety of mental health substance abuse issues, and to be there to walk them through the process and hopefully make it more easy for active and retired members to go through the process, so that there's not too much mystery and there's a lot of comfort, and hopefully, you know, what we really want is case finding, so that while they're speaking to many people at once, they're also trying to identify the 1 or 2 people who actually would benefit from mental health or substance abuse services, and those would be the people they would focus on and use their persuasive powers to get them into professional treatment. And that's been very successful. The peers are the number 2 way that people come into our program. The number 1 way that somebody comes in is really an extension of that process, which is that if I got help and then I'm working with you and see that you're having an issue, I'm more likely to disclose what happened with me in a way to encourage you to get some help, and say not just go to the counseling unit, but rather go see, you know, Miss Gustafson, because she really was a great help to me and I really think she can help you, or, you know, specifically recommend somebody personally, which in any workplace is the best thing to do. So we have some grants. Like anybody else, you can go on the federal registry, look for grants, and SAMHSA and other agencies like that in the federal government, you know, offer them time to time. We're fortunate enough to get a grant. But the big grant we get is monies from the Zagrota bill, and that has 2 aspects to it, which is monitoring, which is done usually by the FDNY Bureau of Health Services, and it's both medical and mental health issues that are monitored. But the part of the grant that we get is for treatment for mental health services, and that now is a large part of our budget. Approximately 76% of our budget is from that federal legislation and the dollars that go with that legislation, you know. And then the next biggest contributor is the City of New York FDNY, and then the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation is another big contributor to our services, very focused on the needs of the families of the deceased. That is their core mission, and they've helped us tremendously in that area, and they support some other things that would help those families. And then another charity that we depend on every year is Honor Emergency Fund, which is a FDNY in-house charity, and that was formed many years ago to meet the uninsured health needs of members and their immediate families. So in our case, they'll assist with mental health and substance abuse needs if they're not covered by insurance. The employees and the retirees have insurance, and we certainly can utilize those products also. That is part of their pay, it's part of their benefit package. So that's been in place, you know, for many years also. We had the opportunity, they asked us to come down and do some immediate work because they suffered the biggest loss in history of their company, their fire department, and we were privileged to do that and happy to do that. And then after that initial assistance, they asked if we could send down a small group of our trained people to help them set up a mental health substance abuse program down there. That happened. It took some time. We needed to identify local resources. We weren't going to stay, and we needed to help them hook up with people right in their community who could make the effort to understand firefighters and EMS better and deal with them very concretely to help solve some of their problems. And we did that with their assistance, and they got some state grants and some other grants, so they were able to move forward. It took a while. We had some people assigned there for long periods of time, but eventually, we were able to help them, and they took the initiative to create a program pretty similar to what we offer. The scale is different, but the concept is pretty similar. And we were given the same opportunity in New Orleans after the hurricane. It looks a little different, but a lot of the components of our program were adaptable to that work environment also. I think what we're even better at is creating systems to continue to help people after the initial 3-month push, let's say. The biggest challenge, of course, is funding, because when it goes off the minds of the folks, the voters, then it goes off the minds of the politicians. So it's, part of what we deal with, but it's just part of your work to try to keep that moving along and get that resource correctly.